press record on this computer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Let's hope that
Thank you.
works. Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about systems thinking. Systems thinking is a body of knowledge, is a science actually. It's been around for a while already. I think it started around the 50s, post-war, World War II. The reason for discovering this came out of understanding that there was a lot of things people were trying to solve complex problems, but the interventions that they made, the solutions they had to solve these problems, they were not working very well. So there were very clever people, very smart people at universities who started to think about how can we make our thinking better? How can we get better at understanding complex problems? How can we then solve them more accurately without having all these strange effects that we don't want, without seeing any results? And so it started in the 50s, and then it evolved into like 4 or 5 stages. And currently today, there's a lot of people practicing systems thinking. And actually, my call out to the world and to you here as an audience would be, please become systems thinkers, right? Because everything you do in life will make more sense if you use a more of a holistic view on your problem. It will make your impact bigger when you're working in organizations, and you don't just focus on what's going wrong in your team, but you understand the dynamics that happen around your team and in the whole organization, right? And when you can explain that to someone, how things really work, then they will be more collaborative in giving you, the freedom to try out some solutions. So systems thinking is something you can learn. Everybody can learn it, and it has all to do with looking at the broader picture. Simply put. Well, you might ask yourself, why did Roland choose such a silly picture to start off with? I chose this picture because it shows you very nicely that systems thinking has a lot to do with looking at the broader picture. Because yes, it's true. It's undeniably true that on that little blue ball in the middle, the risk of a bear attack is higher than on the other balls, right? The other planets. It's 100% true, but it's totally irrelevant. Yeah. If you look at it, the bear attack, level has nothing to do if you look at the picture with these items in it. So the person who made this picture to convey a message is not a very good systems thinker. Because if you're a good systems thinker, you would understand that this property of the blue ball, the bear risk attack, so being the risk of being attacked by a bear, has nothing to do with the constellation of our solar system. There's no thing that connects them to each other. So that property of Earth is not relevant for the solar system when we look at the level of solar system. And that's what system thinking is all about. Right. Now this is me without glasses and well shaven, which I'm not now. I'm a professional Scrum trainer, which means that I am certified to give Scrum trainings. We will email you or give you some messages after this meetup to inform you about trainings that are planned, scheduled, also in Ukraine live. If flying permits, I will be in Kharkiv in August to teach a class on product ownership. As you can see, I also like playing guitar. And what else do I do? I teach something else that is called effective servant leadership. And I don't know what your background is, because I don't know all the people I don't know you people. But if you are a leader of a company, or if you are a project manager and you need to get things done, or you're a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, then you must have noticed that there is this thing about implementing processes and frameworks. And actually, we know the framework and we know the processes, but we don't get what we really want. And if we are doing transformations in larger organizations from old school project management to value-driven organizations producing products, those agile transitions are very difficult things to do. And we are not trained to do so. We are not trained very well. Also, if you look at scrum.org teaches you how to apply a framework. And what I think is missing is that we learn how to deal with people. We need to learn how to make somebody do what you want as a coach, right? But from their own free will, they choose to do what you suggest, or maybe you don't even suggest anything. They come up with the idea. How do you do that? So that's what this training is all about. It's very heavy training for very experienced people that are in Agile for about 5 to 4 years. It's going to be local in, I don't know, I think we're going to Baku and all kinds of places. You can get more information on this as well. If you want to make the next step in your career and be really impactful and effective, then that's a training I would definitely recommend. All right, we're talking about systems thinking, and systems thinking deals with complex adaptive problems or complex adaptive systems. Now, a complex adaptive system, so it's complex, it adapts all the time, and it's a system, okay? And when you say it's a system, then you're saying that it's a group of parts that interact in some sort of way. And these parts can be, they're interdependent, so they have a relationship with each other. But together, when you put these elements together, these items, these parts of a system, together they give you some kind of emergent behavior. Emergent means something exists, something new comes up when you put these parts together. So when you take a bunch of stuff, and you throw it in one location together, right? This is not a system, because although these items are related, because they're related, right? They're connected together now. They don't make up a system because they don't give you some kind of emergent behavior. A car is consisting of many parts, and it has an emergent behavior. When you add me to it as a part, it gives me a mode of transportation. That's emergent behavior, fast transportation. That's just an example, okay? There's many, many more examples. Everything in the world around you is a system, and it can be passive systems that are not really very interesting things. But there's also adaptive, complex adaptive systems. They're interesting. Your team, your Scrum team, or your organization where you work is a complex adaptive system. It's completely changing all the time, and it has emergent behavior. And there is not a direct connection between cause and effect. There's this complexity that you don't see directly. And in order to better understand that complexity, we can use systems thinking. And what we're going to do in this session is I'm going to teach you a very, very low-level technique of modeling systems so that you can have a conversation with someone else about how you think your complex system works. You can study a problem together and model it. You can look at why the team is not performing and model it together and really be on the same page about how you guys think this really works. So you can use it in a retrospective with your team to dive deeper into these recurring problems you're not able to fix. Okay, that's where the value lies in the modeling technique that we're going to apply. But that's just this part of systems thinking, right? The iceberg. This is a model that I use to explain systems thinking. Really. Let's say that we have a bug. All right, you're working in the software development and there's a bug. That bug is an event. It's just happening all of a sudden. Oh, bling, bling, a bug. Something's not working. But if that bug or a bug pops up like a couple of times, like we got 3 bugs or 5 bugs, or we get 2 bugs a day, if something happens 3 times, it's no longer an event. It's a pattern, right? It's a pattern. And even better, If you look long enough and you study those patterns, right, you will see system structures that create those patterns. Now it's getting more complex. And if you see system structures, even deeper is mental models. Wow, let me explain. Let's imagine that there is a bug. Well, okay, you just put it in Jira and that's it. We're done. Now, we see bugs coming in continuously. So we observe a pattern. When we observe a pattern, we can think about, oh, wait a minute, there's a lot of bugs. How come? Why would we have a lot of bugs? If you want to find a real answer to the reason why we have multiple bugs, why we see patterns in bugs, we need to go down the iceberg towards system structures. Because there are system structures in place that create patterns, and those patterns make events happen. That's how the world works. So maybe the system structure is that somebody is putting a lot of pressure on the teams because they're in a hurry, because they promised some kind of deadline to the customer. So developers are making fast code changes. They're sloppy, right? And that's why we see all these events, all these bugs coming up. Now that we understand that system structure, that because of putting a lot of pressure on the developers, we're getting recurring bugs, we might think on, wait a minute, who thought of that? We can just all agree that that's true. If you put more pressure on people, on developers, that they will go faster and that they will produce more software. Right? Because that's probably a belief, somebody's belief, a manager's belief, or a product owner's belief. If I put more pressure on my team, okay, then this system will start producing faster the software that I need. That's the belief. That's the mental model of the product owner or the manager. All right, so let's look at this again from a different point of view. If there's an event, a bug, we can just fix the bug. That's reacting, right? We react to the bug. A bug, okay, somebody is working in operations or whatever team, and they are in charge of solving the bugs that are being reported, right? So this guy sits behind his desk, sees a bug coming in, reacts, solves the bug, or transfers it to a team that is going to solve the bug. That's fighting events. That's great for events, but it's not so great for patterns because you're going to be very busy fighting all these events. So it might make more sense, like I said again, to go lower to solve the problem, below the surface of the iceberg, and look at the pattern that you can see. And if you can see a pattern, like there's 3 or 5 or 10 bugs a day, you can already start predicting. Oh, I bet you tomorrow we're going to have again 10 bugs. I think so, because yesterday we had 10 bugs, and the day before we had 10 bugs. So tomorrow there's going to be 10 bugs again, or more. So you're able to start predicting, which is for some people already a miracle. How do you know? Well, now, when you dig deeper and you go down below in the iceberg, on the level of the system structures, you can do more than just predicting. If you understand why these patterns emerge, then you know the system structure. And if you know the system structure, you can change that structure. You can make a new design for your structure. Okay? Just imagine that the people in the bug registration department, they need to put in the bugs in some kind of bug registration tool. Let's just say that they get a compliment from their boss and a raise in pay for the amount and quality of bugs they put in the system. So when I'm a bug registration engineer, I get paid for putting in a lot of bugs. If I don't get enough bugs, maybe I'll go and click around the application myself to find bugs, because that's what makes my boss happy and that's what he raises my pay for. So that's what I will do. What I'm describing is the system structure that is causing these patterns of recurring bugs. One possible system structure, okay? Because the other system structure was the product owner putting pressure on the team, sloppy code, etc., etc. But you can now start, maybe in the case of this rewarding system of people entering bugs, or rewarding system for QA engineers finding bugs, I've seen this happen, then you can redesign your system. You can think, well, maybe we should decouple the rewarding from our QAs from the number of bugs that they report, because that creates a dynamic in our system that we don't want. Now, if you go even one level deeper, and you can create a hypothesis, an idea on the mental model that was behind the creation of a system structure, and if you can change that mental model, then you can really create a long-lasting transformation. Let me give a very blunt and simple example. If the leaders of a company don't understand what Agile and Scrum is themselves, because they don't practice it, they don't do it, they just tell you to be Agile or to do Scrum, right? Then their mental model is probably Scrum is not for us. It's something for the IT department. And that's the one of the root causes for Scrum and Agile to fail completely and miserably. Because if they don't understand that it's the change they need to get continuously in their system, because that will make them survive as an organization, if that's not what the leaders understand, then every decision they will take after telling people to implement Scrum will be a wrong turn. It will never work. But if you can convince those people and get those people on board for understanding why things are going so horribly wrong in your organization right now, and you can get them to see their mental model is behind it, then they might go, wait a minute. Aha. So we are doing this to continuously be able to change and adapt, right? If they experience that themselves, they're going to create better system structures for the organization to grow that fits the Scrum and Agile thing. And of course, for Scrum and Agile, it's not enough to just have a Scrum team. To really make that work, we would want to have business agility all over the place. So I've been using a lot of words and sentences to explain that we can learn from going one level deeper in our Iceberg model. And if you're back at work and you see something happen, you just make note of it. I noticed that somebody got angry. Hey, there's somebody angry again. Oh, 3 times is bingo. Yes, somebody's angry again. All right. People get angry all the time. That's a pattern. What would be the system structure? Think like that's the way you need to think. And then you're a systems thinker if you do that. So use the iceberg to see, to choose your battles, right? Don't go and chase those events. No, you're a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, so you do actively nothing. You just observe. And then you wait for patterns to emerge. And when you see the patterns, then you can start really thinking about what system structures and mental models are underneath. Because that's the mental model is where you need to be to make a transformation. And then you can bring that change into the organization, and you will have a long-lasting change that will really solve some problems instead of just, rubbing the surface, and something else will pop up tomorrow. I hope that makes sense. So keep in mind this iceberg model, and keep in mind that going towards those mental models actually means that from the emerging behavior that you see around you, things happening around you, that emergent behavior is what we can observe, all right? But to make a change, we need to go to the individual parts in the system and find out what the mental model of this elementary part is that makes this system as a whole work as it does. Don't just go start fixing a team if you don't know if the team is really a part of the system that you're looking at. It's like the bear attack danger. If you're looking at how the planets are correlated, right? This is
Roland,
a complex. Yes.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, I love it.
May I have 2 words about the previous slide, please? Well, it seems to me that one more level is missing here. So,
Yes.
well, mental models, they don't come from nowhere, right? They come from life experience, right? So I think there might be one more level at the very bottom of the iceberg, right? Which is called life experience. Life experience is the source for our mental models and for our beliefs, right? What do you think about that?
I think that's a very valid approach. I think that's good, for sure. Mental models can also be created because you learn them at school. So it might be something that that you have in yourself by nature, that you feel or that you've learned. It could be a value that you've created along the way because you noticed that you were very successful. I've been very successful in a command and control position, right? So that will make me show this behavior again later on. Yeah, so you're right. So values and experience and things we've learned are forming our mental models.
Yep, yep.
May also jump into the conversation. Yeah, pretty interesting one. So maybe together with an individual experience, there is also like company culture, as per my understanding. Yeah, because
No,
here, what do you say?
no. Look, if you have a system structure, then the system structure will make people behave in a certain way. If we reward QAs for reporting software problems, and they get $15 for every bug they find, right? Then we will create from that structure a company culture. So what I'm saying is culture follows structure. We make a structure, for instance.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you got me? So the structure is we do Scrum. And therefore, we get this collaboration culture. Right? So culture follows structure. We first create a structure and then a culture emerges from that. And it's never the other way around. I'm positive about this. So if you want to change that culture, then you have to go to the system structure and the beliefs and mental models that are underpinning that system structure. All right? So we could modify this picture by making an arrow from system structure to the left or something, up the surface, and then write structure there. I hope you can agree with that. Sorry, culture. We can write culture there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the person who interrupted me the first time. I forgot your name. So you said you had 2 remarks for the slide.
Well, so my name is Dmitry, but
Hi, Dmitry.
but I had just one remark actually.
Oh, okay.
About life experience as a source for mental models. That's it.
Yes, good. I like it. It's very good. Actually, life experience, I would even make that a little bit broader. Today I was studying for the ESL training that I'm giving. I was studying this subject a little bit further, and I stumbled into a guy named Dr. Schwartz. And Dr. Schwartz is saying that yes, we can learn stuff, right? That's external to us, and we learn it, and then we change maybe our behavior. And there's stuff like traits that we have, like natural. I'm an extrovert person, right? And maybe somebody else is introvert. That's like born inside of you. You cannot change that very easily. And he says there is this universal set of values that we all share across the world. And he's done a lot of research on this. And this set of it's approximately, I think it's about 10 values. No, well, it's 10 groups of values, and we all share them, and we have a preference for a certain value. That, for instance, let's just say honesty for me, right? If somebody is dishonest with me, I'm gone, and I've survived all my life because I'm always so dead honest, and that's why I like Scrum, because of its transparency. You see how things fit together. But that's because it's my core value. So mental models are actually, yes, they're fed with things that we learn, but what we learn and what we want to take as something to shape our mental model, to make has to fit our values, right? It has to fit with what we feel is right or wrong, with what we feel is helping us or is holding us back. So I think the construct that makes up mental model yeah, you could see it as the set of values that we hold so dearly inside of us and that make us who we are. Good. That was a sidestep on values. Now, the flock. This is birds. I always think it's so incredible. It's like fish as well. But for fish, it's not dangerous because if they swim against each other, then nothing happens. They're in the water, right? But for birds, if they would bump into each other, they just fall out of the sky. This is a dangerous game. And they never fail. Now think about the iceberg. So we see this behavior. We really see the emergent behavior. And the funny thing is that what would we need to do to change the emergent behavior? We could go stand there in the woods holding a scarecrow, woo, woo, and then the birds would go away, right? They would make like, wow, they feel they're attacked, but that would just make the birds go away, but they would stay, you know. That would be an event for them. It would be nothing special. And they would just keep on doing whatever they do. But if I would really want to change the behavior of this system, then I would have to find a mental model that makes this system emerge. And the mental model that makes this system emerge is actually a very simple set of rules. And in most cases, in most systems, there's a very simple set of rules to which the agents comply for creating culture, right? Or some kind of emergent behavior. Culture is emergent behavior for a system. Now, the simple set of rules for this system, I always keep a couple of inches away from the bird to the left, in front of me, and to the right. That's what I do. Nothing else. Second rule, if I see a predator, like a bird of prey, then I'm going to just try to escape. Okay? And with those two rules, this whole thing starts to move. So complex adaptive systems, and I'm reading this slide top to bottom, bottom up. There's on the lowest level, under the iceberg, right, at the mental model, is in people's heads. So we need to go to the agents. They're autonomous actors. The agents they can decide for themselves whatever they do. And they make up the system. Now, these simple rules, right, if just imagine, if we could find out that there is behavior in our organization, like everybody's always very bullying each other. They go like, you gotta shut up, otherwise, that's the way we communicate, right? Shouting and bullying. And if we look at why are people doing this, and then we might find out that that's the way management actually leads by example. You know, I was in a company like that where the boss was a real big bully and everybody was bullying each other in this company. So if we would be able to make the leader of that company see that there are other ways of getting things done with his people and what the effect is of the bullying behavior, and he could ask himself, is this the company that I wished for? Or did I want to have something else actually? Then from there on, you can see already, you can feel that chances for change are growing. We might succeed here. Of course, under the condition that you can speak to this person and he's available for you and he wants to listen to you, to your story about systems and all that. But hey, we're going to learn a technique, right? And we're going to try to get him to a board and to draw with us. Maybe he wants that. So if we can, below that surface, talk to the individual agents that play a role in creating this systemic behavior, then we are very close to changing those mental models of those people and to really making a sustainable change. All right. Above the line, you know, the collective dynamics and the emergent properties of the system, you know, that's just events that we see, and there's no control. Actually, there's no control. Right? We can just observe them, but we cannot really influence them systemically. Everything we do there is just temporary. It's not going to help. It's not going to last. It maybe look like it's happening, you know, that something is changing. But the funny thing is, there's a lot of we are not very good as humans to understand cause and effect if there's a lot of time in between. I mean, yes, I feel that. All right, that's cause and effect with no time in between. But if you would have to learn to play the piano, okay, or the guitar, and let's imagine that between hitting a chord or a key and hearing it, there's 15 minutes, you'll never be able to play the guitar or the piano. You will never learn, or it will take a very long time. So if the time between cause and effect is long, or because we don't see the linear line, but it's like all kinds of things happening in between, then we get lost as humans. We don't understand. We try to think it's linear, but that means that we think we've solved this problem systemically, and then it will come back to us, maybe in a little bit different form, but it will just reoccur because the system is set up to create this behavior. That is systems thinking. Now, to show you the relevance at a global scale, there was this problem that emerged in the island of Borneo, somewhere in the 60s. And the World Health Organization was asked to help out because there was a, what was it called again? There was this disease, people were dying. What they did to fight the malaria is they used DDT, which was like a common way to fight insects back in those days. And we were not very much aware of the side effects of that product. So there was DDT, okay? And the original purpose from the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, was to kill the mosquitoes because everybody was getting malaria of those mosquitoes. And this was a real threat. So that's what they did. They sprayed the island of Borneo with DDT. And yes, they found out that the malaria went down. But what they also noticed was that there was a rat plague after they sprayed DDT. It took a while, but the island was swamped with rats. And that's because those Borneo cats, there was a lot of, it's an island that had like native cats. They died also of DDT, but it took a while for the cats to die. You know, the cats were like, they looked like they didn't care about DDT, but the levels of DDT were slowly building up in their organs. And then, I don't know, after a year or maybe 3/4 of a year, the cat would die. So it took a longer period of time, like I said, a delay. We see all these rats coming up, new behavior of the system. So what, we don't understand. We killed the malaria mosquitoes, and then like a year later, we are like swamped with rats. How in the hell is this possible? Nobody got it. Nobody, at that time, they didn't even know that the rats had anything to do with the spraying of the DDT. Now, there was this third consequence of spraying DDT. That was because there were other insects like wasps that would normally feed themselves on larvae. And these wasps were also killed by the DDT. So these larvae, they could like, you know, they grew exponentially. And these larvae are hungry. They're hungry little critters. So, and in Borneo, they had houses with straw roofs. And those larvae like straw. So what happened, I think almost 2 years later, was that all these houses started to collapse. The roofs started to collapse. And nobody understood why all of a sudden on Borneo, all houses were the roofs were collapsing. We didn't know. And it was because of systems thinking in the 60s that the systems thinkers started to work with the World Health Organization to understand this problem better. And one of the goals of using systems thinkers, not stinkers, thinkers, for solving complex problems is to minimize negative by-effects of interventions, right? So there's this complex problem of people dying of a disease, and then you want to apply a measure that will not create all kinds of negative side effects. So if you look at the way that we are fighting Corona, distancing, staying at home, there are systems thinkers helping the world leaders to come up with these ideas. I'm telling you, because these are measures that we take that are bound to have little side effects, right? Instead of giving everybody some injection with stuff that is not really tested yet, like the American president proposed. He's not a systems thinker. He's proven not to be a systems thinker. I don't know if you heard that, but he was in the beginning of Corona telling everybody to just put some disinfectant and you know, put it in a syringe and then put it in your veins, like, or drink it. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, so this is systems thinking applied in practice. Like I said, Corona crisis definitely was systems thinking involved. But all these large problems that we have, world famine, so people are hungry, people are dying in Africa. How do we solve this without creating more problems, unforeseen problems? But also agile software development, and maybe also the problems you have at home. Why not? You can use systems thinking to solve complex problems, and the relationship that you have with your spouse or with your kids is a complex problem. You can solve anything with it if you want. Wicked problems are problems that, you know, when you start thinking about this, it's not like 1 and 1 is 2. You go like, there's so many factors involved. I haven't got a clue how to solve this. So system thinking is different from traditional thinking because it thinks in wholes, and that's whole with a W, so wholes. So it's holistic, and instead of what we were getting taught at school, thinking analytical, we go to like make things smaller. We zoom in, and then when we zoom in, then we can, you know, analyze what is really going on there. We're still analyzing, but we're more analyzing inside out instead of outside in. When we do systems thinking, we think of all the factors that could be playing a role in this complex problem, and we think about what structures, what is a part and what is not a part of this system. Maybe this thing that I'm looking at now is not really influencing my system so much as I thought it was. Maybe it's something else, right? That's the way systems thinking works. And there's this important word here saying local optimization. And that is opposed to global optimization. Now, local optimization is when you look at a problem with your team. Let's say you're doing software development and the team is not producing good software. What you could do is analyze that problem. Look at the code, right? You zoom in and look at the code. It's a sloppy code. This code is horrible. So you, in all your wisdom, what you do is you send all developers to a clean code training class, because you've seen it. The code is bad. It's poor code. So I will send them to a clean coding class where they will learn about writing proper code. 2 days investment, put down the money, all the team is going there, they come back, and yes, first sprint after that, there's not as many bugs anymore. It looks kind of good, actually. So it worked. But a couple of sprints later, the bugs start piling up again. How in the hell is that possible? What happened, if you look at the iceberg, we've applied a change at the wrong level. We were thinking traditionally, and we have optimized locally. We have optimized the ability of the team to do proper coding. But the bugs that we saw were not caused by the fact that the developers don't know how to code. It was caused by somebody putting a lot of pressure on the team because they're in a hurry. That's where we need to fix the problem, right? So local optimization is waste. We want to avoid that. And when you look at the larger scale, like how does this system work, then you can better understand where to put a sensible intervention that will really change the behavior of the system. Hence, make the whole system function better, and not just one small property of a part. You know, the ability to write good code was not a thing that was really influential in the system that I described with creating a lot of bugs. Now, I'm telling you, it's 30 years of study, and I'm trying to convey what systems thinking is in like 3/4 of an hour. So what is the problem space is what you ask first. How big is my problem? How small is my problem? You try to make distinctions, okay? So what are the variables in this system? I've got a team, I've got a product owner, I've got pressure, okay? Those are my variables. And the pressure can go up or down. And the quality of the code can go up or go down. So those are things that are being influenced. If I do things in my system, the system behavior will start to change. So you think about what is my problem? You think about what are the parts of my problem? What are the variables? You think about, are these variables systems of their own? Like a team is a system of its own. But maybe in the context of the problem that I'm solving, those elements of the system are irrelevant. Maybe there are relationships. Relations can be very influential in systems too. How are they related? Are they related like when I do this, then that one goes that way too? Or when I do this, that one goes that way too? You know, opposite or not? And perspectives. How do I look at these variables? Am I looking at it from a human resource point of view, or from a productivity point of view, or from a clean architectural point of view? Cool. In order to model a system, we use causal loop diagramming, CLD. And as I said, in the system there are variables. And variables have relationships towards each other in the system. And those variables, we just write them down, and we draw an arrow when there's a relationship. There's different kinds of relationships. They can be immediate or delayed. So when they're delayed, we just put 2 marks in the line to indicate that it's taking a while for the effect to occur. And when they're stronger, we can draw thicker lines, and weaker or thinner lines. And then there's similar or opposite effects. You can write a plus for similar and a minus or an O for opposite. That means variable A goes up, then variable B goes up too. So it's reinforcing. It's a similar effect. Or opposite, when A goes up, then B goes down. If I eat more food, then my feeling of needing food will go down. So that's a small example of opposite. Relationships can form 2 kinds of feedback loops. Like I said, balancing or reinforcing. So this reinforcing loop will just get more and more and more and more and more and more like a snowball. Okay? And they will create like these exponential peaks in the system. And balancing loops are going to try to balance themselves around some kind of equilibrium. Okay? Let me try to quickly model a problem. More pressure on teams will make teams deliver releases on time. I'm going to share a different screen. The different screen is going to be like, where is my different screen? Not the desktop, I need to have my browser. Hold on. Yes. Okay. Bear with me for a second. I need to share my screen. Now it should see my Firefox. Here we are. My Firefox was hidden. So I'm in a tool you're probably familiar with by now, which is called, doesn't matter. Let's go. Here we are. Let me zoom in a little bit. So there's this goal to make the developers code faster. And how can we, if we have this goal, now simple thing is, what we do is we have this pressure that we can yeah, please, pressure on teams. So this is a variable. I can put more pressure on the team. And if I put more pressure on the team, then if I think again on what was my problem statement was more pressure on teams will make teams deliver releases on time. So deliver releases on time. I'm looking for nouns in the problem statement. Nouns, like words that make sense. So pressure on teams and releases on time. Releases on time. Releases. Timely releases. Okay, so I could draw here a line between those two. Oh. I would say more pressure would create more timely releases. That's the idea. And if I have more timely releases, then the pressure would probably go down. Yeah. But to be quite honest, this is a little bit oversimplified. Because probably, when we think about it, there's more going on. We were talking about what we see in the system. We were talking about these problems that we have, that we see that the developers are doing quick fixes. So actually, what is really happening, can I erase? I don't know how to erase. I've been drawing these in one go, so I need to, okay. So that goes down. Pressure on teams will make more quick fixes. Now, anybody have an idea what happens if there are more quick fixes?
More bugs.
Yeah, but that's why. I'm going to write it down. More bugs, sure. Is that a direct relation, or is there something in between, do you think?
Well, because the team have no time for, well, looking for proper solutions, right? They are pressed for the time.
Yeah.
Technical depths.
Ah, I like that one. So I'm going to make that a little bit more practical. I would say code complexity. Yeah. That's technical depth. So because we do quick fixes, we create technical depth, which is more code complexity. And so more quick fixes will create more complexity. Okay. Now, if we have more complexity in our code, do we get more bugs because of that? No, I think quick fixes just make more bugs, right? Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because they're quick.
Well, I suppose that because of code complexity, the team velocity will be decreasing.
Yeah, so they spend less time.
Yeah.
It's about time. So let's say that because of code complexity, you were
Support
saying
of the system will be harder in the future.
to what?
Supporting of the system
Yeah, in
will
the
be more
future.
complex.
That's like much later, okay? That's true. The supporting of the system will be much more difficult. But what we see now, because there are more bugs, we need to fix bugs. Because I like the idea of time. So if there are more bugs, we will need to spend more time on bugs. Do you agree?
Of course.
Yeah. And if we spend more time on bugs,
We spend less time
On
new
feature
features.
development. Yeah.
there you go. Features. Feature development. So if we do more bugs, we do less time on feature development. And if we do less time on feature development, then less time, then timely releases is going to go down as well. Right. So the more time on feature development, the more timely our releases. But unfortunately, we are creating this system here, a loop, that kind of influences how good we are at releasing. The more fixes we do, the more bugs we get, the less time we have on feature, the less time we will have on, the less chances we'll have on releasing timely. So probably then there's going to be more pressure on the teams. See where this is going to go? This is not going to work very well for us. And in the meanwhile, our code complexity goes up. And if our code complexity goes up, it's going to go, we're going to go slower, right? The velocity, you were talking about velocity.
Yep.
So see, this is just a way for us in this group already to start to understand, get an agreement on what are the parts of our system and how they are interrelated. And let me tell you, there is no wrong or right. Okay, it's about when code complexity goes up, the velocity goes down.
Goes down, of course.
Yes.
And another problem comes from this is that the teams goes demotivated.
Yes.
The teams goes tired, and the quality of the code.
So we can add that to this system as well. But you should only add it if it really happens in your situation. Right? You should not model a fantasy world. What you should do here is name the variables. If you really see the people being demotivated, right? If that's a pattern that you see, then you put it into your system. Okay? Because if they're demotivated, then chances that will make the timely releases go down as well, because they're not motivated to make the deadlines.
Right, and if the teams are demotivated, we start losing our best, programmers, our best developers.
They will start running away.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you can go on, and then you will have to choose what are the most relevant parts, or elements in variables in your system, and that just takes a dialogue. It takes discussing with, and the goal was here to investigate. Is this true? This is an assumption, right? If we put pressure on the teams, they will go faster. And by making this diagram, right, we can all agree maybe with the people who think that this is true, that this is not true, that it's causing so many side effects that we should change the system. And that's probably changing, the underlying belief that pressure makes developers go faster. Maybe the underlying belief is developers are lazy. And that can surface when you make a diagram like this. You should involve the people, right? When you find out that's because it's a complex problem, you find out that there are players that are not involved in the dialogue, just wipe out your drawing, get the people to join you, and start drawing again with the knowledge that you have thus far.
Right, Roland. So, may I have a couple of thoughts here? Can you, share your screen again with the diagram, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So from this diagram, it's quite clear that placing additional pressure on the team is a wrong approach, right?
Yeah.
So, but we still have the goal, make developers code faster, right? What is the proper approach to achieve this goal?
I think you're wrong. I think what our goal is to have more timely releases.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
So this should be the goal, timely releases. So what do we need to do to get timely releases? And now we're going to make a new diagram, studying the problem of getting timely releases and the variables that play a part. Now we're moving into the levels of the iceberg.
Okay, so I see your point. You mean that the goal is wrong, first of all, right?
Yes.
This is wrong. Okay, I see. Okay.
And doing systems thinking can reveal that this is the cause of a lot of trouble, and we need to fix that. And that it's much better and more clever to look at the problem. How do we get timely releases? What is influencing? And one of the things that is influencing timely releases is the pressure on teams, but there's a lot of other stuff influencing the timely releases. So we're changing our perspective, you see? Okay, let's move on. I'm going to share my presentation again. Oh. Yep. All right. So I was saying, look for the words. And when you're in front of a group or together with a group and you're facilitating a session like this, try to write down the problem. And then, like I did, underline the things that, you know, the words that are important, because those are your first variables where you can start modeling with. I suggest you make a screenshot of what I'm sharing now. The reason is that later on, you might find it useful to look at these steps that I've described here, because I'm going to ask you to choose a problem and then model it. And then this will help. Okay, so I will count to 3 and then I will skip to the next slide. So the step-by-step guide is to try to formulate a problem statement. You will get that from me. Think about systems boundaries. So don't go all kinds of different perspectives and mingle them up. Try to stick to study your problem. Be aware of that. Try to find variables. Try to find relationships and see what kind of relationship it is. Is it opposite or similar? And then find a place to intervene. Okay. Intervention means that you change, you cut away one relationship. That's an intervention. Okay. Now, this is the time where the people who are happy to listen to the lecture on systems thinking and do not want to actively participate, this is a time for those people to leave the session, because for the last 30 minutes, the people who want to be interactive and trying to model a problem are going to be working on modeling a problem. And it makes sense to not have people listening in without contributing. So for those people who are going to leave us, you will receive some information with a slide deck that I've shown and some additional material that Dimitri will add about systems thinking. Yeah, thank you for joining and hope to see you back in another meetup that we will organize soon. And maybe join my classes from Scrum.org or Effective Servant Leadership. Thank you. All right, for those people who want to join and interact, you can turn on your microphones and you can turn on your cameras, because then we can be together as if we are really in one room. Very good. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. Excellent. So let's do a quick vote in the chat. Okay. If you want to look at the problem or the problem statements that I have here, number 1 is, can we could model the problem of the effect of not putting technical depth on the product backlog. So what happens if we don't put the work that is involved in technical depth on the product backlog? What's happening then? Or we could study number 2, the effect of the number of product owners on lead time. So the idea here is that the more product owners we have, the longer the lead time will be. Lead time is from idea to result, to delivering in the hands of the customer. Or we could work on a problem that you have. So is there anybody who has a systemic problem or a problem case they would like to model? We can do that too. You can just say it now. Yes, I have a problem. My problem is. Okay, so I guess it's not somebody's problem. There's nobody who has a problem that they want to share that is ready to be modeled. Then I suggest you guys just put in the chat whether you want to do 1 or 2. So 1 is not putting technical depth on the product backlog. Number 2 is more POs, more lead time. So I would go for this one. Okay. Who's going to do a quick count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think number 1 is the winner. Yep. If you all agree. Ooh, that was a deep sigh. Somebody was tired of putting technical depth on the product backlog. All right. There's an address here of the mural that I was just using. Ah, that was the word I was looking for. Mural for tool. Sometimes just can't find the word, and I learned to let go instead of blocking my brain finding the word. So I will paste that link in the chat. Here you go. And I want to invite you to all go there. We'll need a browser, of course.
We haven't get it yet. You probably sent it personally to somebody.
Really? Let me try that
Just
again.
check it.
Yes. I'll send it to only to Dima. Oh, horrible. Everyone. Thank you. Here we
Yep.
go.
We've got it.
Good. So there's the link. As far as I know, permissions should be all right. So if you are, I'm going to share the screen to show one little thing, okay, for navigation, because otherwise, I don't know, if you're not used to you working with this product, then it's going to be difficult. So I'm going to share my screen to show you how to navigate. All right. This is the screen that I was just working on. There's this outline thing in the top right. If you click outline, you can see room 1, room 2, and my example. We're now in my example. If you click room 1, we go to an empty screen, and you can just move it around if you want. Ooh. Use 2 fingers to move it around, and I will quickly lock it. But that's the screen that we're going to be working in. All right, I hope everybody can see it. And maybe you can try to create a sticky note.
Roland, could you please go back once again to our problems, one in the second one?
I will paste it in the mural.
Yep, great.
Okay, you guys are busy. Very good. So it was, hold on, I need to, yes. So it was number 1. It's not very well readable, I'm afraid. Oh, wait a minute, that's the wrong thing. I need to have the effects of not putting technical depth. Right? Can you see it?
Yeah, we can.
So that's the problem that we're going to investigate. Now, I suggest that maybe one person is going to facilitate, and it's not going to be me. Somebody who understands the tool a little bit.
Well, as for me, I see this tool for the first time, so I'm not sure if I can
Well,
do
I
it.
will help. But if you want, we can start. I stopped sharing my screen. I'm in here too. All right, guys. So what would be variables? And we can just make variables ourselves, making round sticky notes. What would be? Let's try to tell a story. So we have technical depth. Clean code. I see. Whoa, that's a very big sticky. Oh no, somebody is moving the whole grid. I've just lost my... Okay. So we've got some variables called, we got clean code twice, so we can remove one. All right.
I've just copy pasted it as a placeholder
Okay, very good.
for a new variable, but I'm still thinking of it.
So we have technical depth and we have a product backlog. Let's start with these two. We have bugs. So somebody in the group, let me appoint a volunteer. Natalia, hello, how are you doing? Are you okay? Oh, you're on mute. You can unmute.
Oh, are you
Good.
calling me? Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm
Hi.
Roland. Hi. So,
Natalia. Yeah.
hi, Natalia. So, what would be the first effect you can think of that is going to happen if we don't put technical debt on the product backlog? What other variable would be influenced if we do that?
Complexity of our code will increase.
Yes.
The first complexity will.
So I think it's Sergey who's going to draw the lines, right?
Okay, Sergey.
I think so. He was facilitating, I think.
But I can't see the maybe clean code. It's not code becoming not clean.
Right, let me change it.
Unclean code.
Code complexity.
Code complexity will be increased.
Yes. Do you see the drawing pen on the left-hand side? For some reason, I don't have a toolkit anymore, so I can't do much. I can just watch you guys.
Okay, and then after code complexity, I suppose there will be some.
Yes, so if the complexity
I
yeah?
suppose that untransparent scope of PBIs, it's also
Well,
also interesting. And
yeah. So what are we trying to prove actually? What's the assumption? What kind of effect do we think is going to happen?
I suppose we will receive a lot of bugs and time to market will be longer. Okay. Because we will fix them. And unpredictable time to market, maybe not longer, but sometimes unpredictable because we have a lot of bugs, and then we can't estimate them.
So the idea is that we will have the stability of the system, right?
Yeah.
The instability will go up and the stability will go down, right?
Yeah, instability. Code complexity. I can draw this code complexity and then instability.
So does somebody disagree with this relationship? Because now what we're doing now is we're starting to show our mental model on how this works. You see? So does anybody think that there's another relationship that we should immediately take into account of what's happening? So there's more code complexity. There's more code complexity, the instability of the system will go up too. And what happens if the instability of the system goes up?
Well, the amount of bugs will be increasing.
Yes, so, yeah, very good. So just add it. There will be more bugs.
Bug fixing become more bugs.
Yeah. Good.
Well, as a consequence is the time for bug fixing will be increasing and the time for new features will be decreasing.
Yes, definitely. And I think everybody will agree on that. So try to model that last sentence.
You mean that the time for developing of new features will be decreasing? You mean that?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see. Let's involve Katrina. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Well, maybe you also feel like drawing. Where are we now? Oh, could you finish? Could you finish the lining? Because I think we were still waiting for some drawing of lines and relationships for the time for new features.
I think I would like to add the question. Didn't we lose our first act, like less bugs in the backlog? Because now we started our system from code complexity and didn't take this less bugs in backlog at all as a variety.
Variable, you mean? Yeah, well, we can add the bugs. Yes. Yeah. So I suggest that you add that variable.
Mm-hmm. And as I understood, it's very important how to name those variables.
Absolutely. So I suggest what's difficult if you put negativity in it, for instance, not enough time. That's not a good variable because it makes your thinking too complex, right? Available time is easier to work with. That can go up or it can go down, but not enough time. What happens if not enough time goes up? It's like too complex for me. I'm not smart enough. So yes, naming the variable is important. But Katerina, then could you add those bugs to the code complexity? Because bugs makes code complexity go up, right?
Yes. Well,
you mean it's necessary to draw one more relations between more bugs and code complexity?
Which one?
Oh, sorry. Additional row you mean?
Yeah, draw it. You're right. That's the one. Excellent. But what makes more bugs? That's so. Not putting technical debt on the product backlog is a direct cause for getting more bugs?
Well, not exactly. Maybe it's a long-term effect, I think.
Yeah.
We actually may not implement the features as they're supposed to be implemented and then forgot this information if we will not put the technical debt. Also, we may affect the scope of the release because at some point we will face that we have a technical debt, but we didn't take this into account when we planned our release.
Yeah. I made one variable red because less bugs in backlog. That's a difficult. It's a difficult thing to put your head around. And actually, it was already there, and I'm selecting it now because here there's a variable that says more bugs. What is this different? Less bugs in backlog than more bugs, or is it the same thing but actually opposite in words? Did you write? Who wrote this variable? This one?
It was me.
Ah, okay. So is it different?
But the question is, how should we address our problem? We didn't call it at all. Well, our problem is called like, let's not put technical debt to the product backlog, and we didn't put it as a variable.
Yeah. So we need to make a smarter problem because our problem is not specifically defined. I think you're right about that.
So I can
not putting technical debt on the backlog will, and then what do you think? What is the problem?
Maybe product owner think that we don't need it, or product owner think so that we need to produce more user stories that useful for clients or customers.
Okay, so
like
putting,
this.
So
will spend more effort to the business value features. Maybe this.
Yes.
More effort.
Will make us spend more time on new features.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's what product owners think, right? They think, oh, okay, if we work on all those architectural redesigns and rewriting code, that's not valuable because it doesn't give us new features. Okay. So Natalia, who was it? Katerina, thank you for that remark. So that means that we need to add in our system time spent on new features, correct? Do we have it already somewhere as a variable?
Yes.
Yes, time for new features.
I will give it a nice color then. Time spent on new features. That's what we're talking about. And make this one blue, just like all the rest. Okay. And where's technical depth? The amount of technical depth on the backlog. Is there a variable that is called like that? Amount of technical depth on the backlog.
Time to market will be increased. Well, time for new feature, time to new market.
Absolutely. Amount of technical depth. Yeah. Do we have the amount of time spent? Sorry, the amount of. We don't have it yet, right? Well, I'll just put it in. Amount of tech depth PBL, product backlog. So I will also make this one green. So basically this is the, oh. All right. I hope you agree that I've added this part of the problem statement, amount of technical depth on product backlog.
Why would we agree if the problem stated is about not putting technical data on the product backlog?
Yes. So
we are making the product backlog not really transparent, and we can't really say that we can add more technical data in the backlog when the problem is that we are hiding technical backlog, and we will be eliminating technical data in the PBIs,
so what you're saying,
of PBIs will be bigger.
So what you're saying is that this variable that I added is not a part of the system because we don't do it. We don't put technical depth on the product backlog at all.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, or technically we may do that. I mean, we may place technical depth into the product backlog, but all those tasks will be at the very bottom of the product backlog.
We never pick them up, right? We don't.
Right.
We don't pick technical depth in the sprint.
Right. They are always at the bottom of the PBL. It means that
sprint. That's better.
Problem statement is that we don't have the culture of recognizing the technical data as the problem states.
Yes.
And the problem is more about transparency of the PBIs and product backlog and recognition what it really means to us.
I agree. So see what's happening now is that we are getting closer to better understanding this problem because we thought we had a problem definition and we didn't. And once we agree that it's about this culture of not attacking technical depth at all, then we can just throw away everything that you guys have been creating and start a new diagram, a new model. Because most of the times I was only successful with doing causal loop diagramming like we're doing now by throwing my model away at least 3 times. So you start modeling like this, and then everybody starts putting in sticky notes, and then you get stuck, and then somebody comes up with a smart remark and says, hey, our problem statement is incorrect. And then we all go, damn, you're right. Our problem statement is incorrect. Let's start over again. But that's very good. That's very insightful, because now we're getting closer to all understanding the problem in the same way. And that's the reason why we do causal loop diagramming. All right. So you had a small taste of what it's like. You can use tools, whatever you want. Just use a whiteboard and sticky notes. That works fine. You can do it online as well with tools like these. We're not going to solve this problem quickly, and I'm not going to give you the silver bullet solution to this problem either. This was really just an exploration to find out how you can have this dialogue and what emerges from having this dialogue. In the meanwhile, I will switch back to my presentation. It's also a bit frustrating that you go, I wish we had this problem solved, and now we didn't. And why don't we finish it? Well, you can finish it for yourself if you want. I was telling you, again, here on the right-hand side, that there is no single correct solution. It's really about having a meaningful conversation. I don't know if you know what it means to go down a rabbit hole, but that's like you're zooming too deep in a part of the system, and you're getting all these variables included in your system's diagram that are really not a part or very influential in your system. So if I look back to, am I sharing my screen actually? I don't think so.
Yes, you are.
Am I? And what am I sharing? Step by step.
Slides, PowerPoints.
Slide,
Okay.
your turn. Choose a problem, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no, that's not the right one. That's funny. Now you see something different.
Yep.
Okay. So there's no simple correct solution. Beware of going down rabbit holes. So if I look into, we were having this vague problem that we were trying to model, and there's a lot of variables already. Now, the best way to approach this, to not have to be overwhelmed with these variables, is to keep on trying to tell a story, and that will also prevent you from going into a rabbit hole. So I'm looking at our model now that we were creating, and at least what it tells me is that if code complexity goes up, then the instability of the system goes up as well. We get more bugs, and that will create more complexity. So this is a reinforcing loop that goes on and on and on and on and on. And because we have more bugs, we will have less time to work on new features, right? And that will have influence on our time to market. That's all cool. That sounds good. And then we can start, you can tell a story like that. And everybody can follow that story. And in fact, what we're doing, in fact, is we're explaining how we see the problem. And everybody can think, oh, wait a minute, yes, that's true, or that's not true. We're missing a variable here. We're missing something important. Or not. We're maybe involving too many variables here. Okay? So, questions about this modeling technique for doing systems thinking. Let's have a 5-minute Q&A round.
Is there a defined notation how to draw this diagram models?
Yes, it's in the slide deck. And it goes like this. There are 2 ways for doing it, but this is one way. That's it. Okay. And there are, it's as simple as this. Right? You got variables and you got arrows. And if you look on causal loop diagrams, then you will find a lot of examples. And I think I've added some stuff at the end. Oh, yes. You will find some in this list. And let me quickly think. In the meanwhile, is there another question? I'm going to do some searching because there's another important source that I know. Does anybody still have a question on causal loop diagramming or the notation?
No questions.
I think we've got one question from Mikhail Sorokin again in the chat. He asked us about, isn't making pressure same local issues as poor code quality? Roland, any ideas on that one?
So let me say the question again.
Yeah.
So we were trying to do some analysis of the case about the applying pressure from product owner perspective and poor code quality. So we were comparing two things, and I was wondering if applying pressure is basically same problem or same thing from scale perspective of the case. So I guess these are similar things. So and
well, I think I understand. I think I understand what you mean. It has to do with the perspective you take.
Okay.
From certain perspectives, these could very well be the same variable. Yes, because they're actually, you consider that to be one system. There's no need to, for instance, the amount of how hungry I am and how much I eat is very closely related. And it's so closely related that it's actually one thing, right? I shouldn't, if I separate those two, it just makes my causal loop diagram very blurry if I look, depending on what I'm studying, if you're still following me.
Okay.
So I think, yes, you could put it together, but it depends on what you're studying.
Okay. Thank you. Understood.
Anything else?
How to define this the first starting point for the discussion?
Well, I suppose that there is a problem somewhere. You're not going to do this for fun. You're going to do this to try to find an intervention that is not going to cause a lot of side effects to solve or to make a problem more bearable. So there is a problem. For instance, what if you're in a retrospective with your team and your team is complaining about something? And that is a problem that is not within the power of the team to solve. Can you think of retrospectives, or can you think of situations from your daily work of problems that keep on coming back to you? Can you give an example? Or don't you have problems that are reoccurring?
For current moment, I don't have. Actually, I'm not asking about the goal. I'm asking the situation when we have the goal, yeah, and put a lot of variants, but how to define this first variant from which we build all these connections?
But it will show itself, because if the team says, or if the Scrum Master says, the team does never succeed in finishing all the tasks within the sprint. That's an observation. And it's not an event, apparently. It happens more often, all sprints, right? So there is something there deeper to investigate. So there is this behavior problem that we want to solve or improve. So do you understand that? So you will just see a problem around you, like Roland is always late for work. Well, let's model it. Let's see how come. The team never delivers on time. People are demotivated. And then the problem statement, the teams that are demotivated, could be that you first do a brainstorm with what are the variables, what are the factors that influence the motivation of the team. You ask the team, what motivates you or what demotivates you? And then within these variables, maybe things is going to be like pressure or not nice assignments to work on, or not getting along with colleagues, or working from home, or whatever. And that's the material that you're given it as a present, and then it's up to you with the people who experience this problem to try to make sense of it all and to try to to define better variables and to define lines between those variables and see how they interact. There's behavior you're describing. That's why it's a diagram that, yeah, the causal loop diagram is a diagram that describes behavior of a system. So if there's behavior you don't like, then you can try to describe it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what your role is, but I'm Scrum Master. So retrospectives, the stuff that we talk about there are good sources for modeling. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else from anyone?
Are there, well, any alternative tools to CLD diagrams?
Yeah, there are. But you'd have to Google that for yourself. I know there's this small, very easy online tool called Loopy, and it's nice to do some experimentation with. But the problem is that I've tried to model very simple problems with it, that I kind of knew how it should work, and then you can make the system move, right? You can make it show emergent behavior in some sort of way visually, but I never got the system to do what I want. Yeah, very simple things, yes, but when it becomes like a system can go to a certain tipping point and then start to show new behavior. That's exactly what we see when we apply a local optimization. It doesn't work, and then after a while we get this new recurring behavior. If you want to model that in a tool like Loopy, I was never able to do that. So if you got one, then send it to me so I can learn. Most of the tools that I know are simple tools that, you know, you just have blocks and lines and you draw them, and it's not, you cannot click a play button to make it move, because that doesn't really work. So CLDs are a static representation of a dynamic system. And the dynamics come from the story that you tell around it.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I have another question, if you allow me to.
Sorry, I was first in line. Roland, do you think it is possible to model an emergent system behavior? Like you want some system model for that. Do you think it is possible?
You have to repeat your question because you were going like that for me.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. So the question was about, can you model system behavior so that you can get a new emergent behavior of the system?
Well, the thing is, if you model a system together with somebody else, or preferably with a group of people, then what will happen is you will get a different understanding and an agreement or an assumption on how the system works. And if you think you understand how the system works, then you can go like, wait a minute, it looks from what we've modeled, and you know that models are always wrong, right? But at least they give us a little bit of help. But still, it looks, we can agree that it looks as if, let's stick to the simple problem of management pressure. If we take away management pressure out of our system, then, and you take it out really physically of your drawing, and then look what's happening in the system, then probably the number of bugs will go down, and that means that let's try that. Let's try to get rid of the management pressure. What do we need to do to get rid of the management pressure? We need to talk to the managers. So then you can come up with a plan to do this. And it's always an assumption. And what you should do then, keep observing the system. And after a while, come to the conclusion that, yes, wow, it worked, or it only worked for a while. Our system is working differently from what we thought. We need to study it again. So systems thinking is not easy. Although causal loops seem to be easy, they are describing complex, difficult problems. So it's never easy. but you can at least get a little bit better understanding. And yeah, you will see different emergent behavior if you work with the assumption that you understand your system and you place an intervention. You cut one of those relationships, you take it out, or you change the relationship.
So just a little bit addition to here. So what I was asking is not about fixing an existing system.
Oh.
I was asking about creating a new system, and so that you can get a new emergent behavior.
From scratch, you mean?
Yeah. Yes, from scratch.
Wow. Yeah, I think you could do that. Why not?
Or you need to take an empirical.
Well, you will have to. You can model whatever you want, but that would be abstract. But then when you put it into practice, that would be the empirical part of it, right? To see if it really works in reality the way you thought it would be.
Understood. Okay,
yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah, yeah. But definitely, that's a very cool approach. To try to just design something new from scratch to get some kind of emergent behavior that you're anticipating. That's cool. I like it. All right, guys. I'm going to call it a day. I hope you enjoyed trying to model a little bit, or to getting a little bit understanding of what it is to start modeling. I really want to encourage you to give it a try at work, because that's when it's really going to make sense, because you're really going to have a problem in your hands that is real, and it will be much more easy to decide what are the parts of your system and what not, and how they interact. Okay?
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. Last words from Dimitri and Lana before we go.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you everyone for joining. It was a pretty good session, I think. And don't worry about the materials. We'll share them with you via email. So take care. Have a great night. And see you soon.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, at least this time I was in the chat, right? I was in the meeting. We managed.
Take two, like, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I have to take two. I have to stop the recording. Yeah.
Oh, we can cut that.
Stop video. No, that's something else.